What's going on, guys? Dr. Andrew Fix back here for another episode on the code. Like I typically tell you guys, thank you so much for tuning in, whether you're on your phone, on the computer, driving, or at work. Thanks so much for joining us. Sitting here in our office here in DTC with a new friend of mine, Bryan. He is a firefighter here in Denver, and he's the owner of a supplement store here in town, Max Muscle South Metro. So, Bryan, thank you so much for coming over here to join me and to hop on this episode, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, I ultimately kind of got connected to you or with you through a team member of ours here at Physio Room and through a gym that we both have good relationships with here in town.
Yep.
But will you do us all a favor and just basically introduce yourself a little bit more thoroughly than I did, of like, you know, where'd you come from? What's your background? And then we'll start getting into the supplement side of things in a little while.
Yeah. So 43 years old. I graduated here and from Mullen in '98. So I was an athlete all growing up. I'm currently, like you said, a Denver fireman, have been in that industry or profession for about 20 years.
Yeah.
On the supplement side of things, I've always been in the education process of sports and exercise science, in addition to supplementation. Opened my first Max Muscle in '09, and then has been open ever since. So we've launched an online platform. I've had multiple store locations, and sat on board of directors for Max Muscle, develop products. Actually working on a product currently that has creatine in it.
Awesome.
To launch here to market probably in the next 60 days.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm a father, I'm a husband. I have 3 girls in my life, 2 stepdaughters, 16 to 14, and then our daughter who's 4.
Awesome.
So yeah, very busy life, active life. Going to be running my first 100-mile ultra marathon next year. So
cool.
Training is in my world, and just balancing or maybe the lack thereof of what everything has in store. So,
well, I've got to ask, as we've got a couple clients here at Physio Room getting ready to do Leadville, or some that are already doing the Leadman or one of the series. What are you doing next year?
I've signed up for, or will be signing up, it hasn't opened yet, for the Yeti 100 in Washington State. So it's a 100-mile race. I've run my longest distance is running a marathon, and that was quite a few years ago. So long enough to not even remember, probably.
Yeah.
Not a great runner, until I get into it in the training, don't really love running, but want it for the achievement, the mindset, everything that comes outside of just the legs moving aspect of it. So, which
with, you know, a couple of our clients and almost anyone I've talked to that does those style races, the ultras, that's more to them what it's about.
Yeah.
It's the mindset, the mental hurdles that you have to overcome, way more so than just the physical. Like, do you have the physical endurance to do the event?
Yeah, I mean, it's a 30 hour cap, which the goal is to complete it. The goal isn't to set times and records. It's completion and then just getting through 100 miles of movement.
Yeah, so. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let me start asking you this. You were a fireman first, you still are.
Yep.
And then in 2009, you opened a supplement store. Where did that idea come from? Like, what sort of led to, okay, it's whatever year you had that idea?
Yeah.
Because you were already in your firefighting career at that point, and then you decided to open the store.
Yeah, I've always done construction and or do things extra, right? General contractor. I've always worked out. I've always done stuff before firefighter world and through firefighter world. Very active, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So 2008 arguably was our worst economic time.
Sure.
And I had the great idea to open up a supplement store from a retail perspective, which was a huge hurdle in and of itself, but I have a passion for it. Not necessarily the sales of things, but the science and the education and the assistance in helping people. I just recall going into GNC in high school and being sold things that I had no reason in taking, right? I didn't even know what it was. I wanted to get bigger, faster, stronger. The guy or the gal behind the counter said, buy this. I bought it with lawnmower money and it did nothing. Or I didn't know what it was supposed to do. So a lot of those things resonated with me. I was living in Vail and working in Vail at the time. on the fire side as well, and had this notion or idea of opening up a supplement line, store, company, whatever. Matt Hesse, very, very influential in our industry of sports and exercise science and athletic development, and currently really big in helping former military and vets get into the health and wellness industry via training and stuff like that. Huge name, does a lot of great things, a lot of good information. He actually owned GNCs at the time.
Okay.
I was turned on to him, is why I say this, and met with him, and he's like, yeah, man, I can take 25,000, give me 20 grand and I'll make Bryan Cash protein and we'll sell it. Or look into this company such as Max Muscle. They're up and coming, they're out of California, they do a lot of great things. So I flew out to California, set up a day with Max Muscle, and never, I won't say never look back, but hit it running. In development of bringing Max Muscle and starting that side in Colorado. So.
Awesome. And that store's in Lone Tree.
Yeah, the store is in Lone Tree. Just south of South Denver.
Yeah. And I've been into the store, and you guys have all sorts of different products, just like most supplement stores do. But what we want to get into today is talking about creatine, which, you just mentioned it a moment ago. Was creatine a supplement that you were taking at the time when you decided that you were going to go down this path to open up a supplement store?
Yeah, good question. Yes, I remember taking, as maybe some of the listeners do, I remember taking phosphagen and or creatine in college with grape juice, right? Like, remember like the EAS and how do we take it, when do we take it, load and cycling, too much, too little, all that stuff based around athletic performance, etc. So to answer, the short answer is yes. I had taken creatine prior to Max Muscle, and yeah.
Well, and one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you about creatine is, one, it's one of the supplements that's been around like my whole life that I remember, right? And I know there were people taking it in high school sports, college sports, and adult life that I've been around. I take it too. And there's tons of research out there on it. And, everything that I've seen talks about a lot of really good benefits of taking creatine. But I know just from talking to people is a lot of people have misunderstandings about like what it is, what it does. And I kind of wanted to get into that a little bit with you. So let's just maybe start at like a high level. Like, if someone comes into the store and they have a goal of, like you said, getting bigger, faster, stronger, maybe creatine's a supplement that you would recommend to them, what is it that you tell someone who otherwise doesn't really know what creatine is and what it does if they're considering taking it?
So creatine in and of itself, like I try to do a lot of Q&A. So I turn the questions back on them and let them answer their own question, right? So what are you trying to achieve? Oh, most people want to lose body fat and increase strength and muscle mass. That's like
I would say
99% of the population, right? Whether you're 85 or 15, that's usually some form of the goal.
Totally.
Okay, what are you doing to accomplish that? Oh, I'm working out, usually is the first answer. Cool, working out is great. Keep doing that, and we can talk about that and how you're doing that, right? And then we lose track. Then we kind of like fade, right? And then we delve into, what are you eating? What are you taking in calorically to support this goal of bigger, faster, stronger, lose weight, gain weight, whatever? And then we can start breaking down macros. It's a science, but it's not a hard science, right? It's not a difficult science. So that takes us into then supplementation, and supplementation for some people is scary. Supplement is to supplement a whole food diet, that hence the name, right? It's not in replace of, or shouldn't be, unless we're drastically deficient. We can take a supplement, but usually for the sake of what the word is, we're supplementing a whole food diet. So if we're eating red meat, we're getting creatine, right? We're getting microdosing of creatine. If we're not, then that's fine too, but we're not getting a lot of creatine in our daily habits of nutrition. So through that conversation is, oh, okay, I understand what you're saying. Well, what is creatine going to do for me? And creatine in and of itself, we make creatine via the Krebs cycle, right? We produce it. ATP is what our muscles are firing off of. Adenosine triphosphate is ATP, and that's what's giving me the ability to raise my arm up or squat bench clean or make that muscle fire efficiently over a period of time, whether it's through just getting out of bed or exercise. We tap into those creatine stores that we're currently making, and we accomplish those things by supplementing with creatine in white powder or however you want to consume it in and around our daily activity. We're able to do that more effectively and not go into depletion of what our body's currently making.
Got it.
So I can supplement creatine in and around a training session and maybe get one more rep, one more set, two and a half more pounds, whatever. And over the course of a measurable period, 30, 60, 90 days, the outcome is bigger, faster, stronger, hopefully, right? Taking in consistency.
Yeah.
So that's usually, with additional feedback, that's usually kind of the conversation of a novice to creatine in the store.
No, I think that's great. And you just mentioned it right there at the end of your explanation with consistency. So talk to us a little bit about, like, if someone's going to start taking creatine. When I was in high school, I remember hearing friends and teammates doing like a loading phase and then fading off, and then loading phase and fading off. And then more recently, I've heard more talk about just taking it with consistency, like getting your 5 grams or however much it is a day, but like that loading may or may not be quite as important as long as you are consistent with taking it and not going through periods of on and off and on and off.
Yeah, the loading cycle came from the steroid world. Gotcha. And pairing it to supplementation. We can not blame, but we can revert back to articles with like Mark McGuire, right? Like, I'm cycling creatine, that's why we come to find that that's not always the case, right, with that specific incident. But we're taking nomenclature and applying it to things that aren't applicable, such as creatine. Creatine, if you take too much or creatine that's not utilized due to daily activity, you excrete it out, you urinate it out.
Okay.
By loading it, it's getting into your system faster and more efficiently. That isn't wrong, but if your goal is, I think we have to look at, why are we taking creatine? We're taking creatine hypothetically to gain lean muscle mass. Agreed. Whether you're 85 or 15. If we're going towards that goal, then why wouldn't I want to be on creatine indefinitely, right? If I'm always going to be wanting to gain lean muscle mass or maintain lean muscle mass, there's never like an off time for creatine, right? Creatine isn't, by ingesting supplemental creatine, our natural production doesn't shut down. Unlike hormones, right? If I introduce androgynous outside hormones, my natural production depletes. But if I consume supplemental creatine, the Krebs cycle doesn't shut down. We still make it. So the benefit of keeping that in a consistent use and moderate use, right? We don't need to take 30 grams a day. That's an expensive bowel movement or urinary, right, movement. We can just start modestly, 3 to 5 grams pre-training, 3 to 5 grams post-training. You and I would take that regimen on a consistent basis. And then days that we're taking off or not training, maybe it's just 5 grams in the morning, and we're getting that saturation on a daily basis.
And that's basically the next question I wanted to ask you is, I see on most, I know it comes in more forms than just powder, but powder is probably the form that most people are familiar with. And that's the one that I take. The serving is typically 5 grams. When should you take it, and how much should someone take? Is it determined by like what type of training that person's doing, how big that individual is, like what sort of a serving suggestion or timing suggestion?
That 3 to 5 gram is accurate, and I think is palatable for most, right? Timing is before and or after your training window. So if I'm going to dedicate 60, 90, if I'm going to dedicate 30 minutes, right, just turf work, whatever, your body's still utilizing creatine, can be utilized before and after that. 3 to 5 grams is an ideal single serving. I would suggest take up to 2 servings for active user. On the days that the 85-year-old female or the 15-year-old high school student isn't active that day, 5 grams for saturation daily would be recommended. And I would put that in whatever people can adopt on a daily basis, whatever they can make a habit of. So if that's in the morning, I take, a health and wellness shake or hydration supplement, I'll put creatine in it, and I
Yeah.
know I'm getting it every day, 5 grams.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. And then the 3 to 5 to 7 days I'm training, I put in another 5, and that's in my pre-workout or
Sure.
my post-workout shake. So I'm hitting that either way.
Gotcha.
Whatever can be habit forming. And I think the cycling nomenclature around creatine, not that it's a necessity, but when people say, oh, I wanna come off creatine, I'm not gonna argue that. That's personal choice. It's not physiologically necessary.
Mhm.
But if you want to take a break, that's fine. Your daily habit is going to make that happen. You're going to travel. You're going to be too busy to work out for a week. You're going to be gone for 5 days or longer. Like the cycling habit is going to be enforced for you, whether you choose to or not.
Yeah.
Usually.
It's pretty hard not to miss a day here and there, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're not missing an extended period of time. But yeah, I know when I'm at home in my normal routine, that's when I'm the most consistent with stuff like this. My wife used to do a lot of traveling for work.
Mhm.
She was very much in the routine of she's packing Ziploc bags of all sorts of her stuff when she travels on the road, takes extra time through security at the airport a lot of times.
Yeah.
But I'm not usually bringing all my stuff with me when I go travel because it's just a quick weekend here every once in a while.
It's built in 3 or 5 days.
Yeah, and I just get back on my routine at home. And just like you said, the way that I've been using it lately is pretty much just in this. I put it in a little thing that I mix up in a shaker bottle every morning.
Mhm.
And I haven't necessarily been like taking it directly pre and post workout.
Mhm.
I probably finish that drink right about when I start to work out every day. So
Yep.
I guess I'm still finishing it pre-workout. I've pretty much just been on the 5 grams every single day,
Mhm.
not necessarily adding more
Mhm.
on training days, but just trying to hit it pretty consistently
Yep.
every single day. And I would say over probably honestly, it's been probably only about 2 to 3 years that I've been consistently taking creatine. I would say I definitely feel like I've noticed a difference.
Yeah.
Because if I go look back at in-body scans or just honestly even pictures and my lifting capacity in squat, bench, deadlift, it's all very different than it was a couple years ago.
Yep.
And maybe that's a piece of the puzzle with, of course, the consistency of eating and working out.
Yeah, I mean, if I can get 5% improvement by taking creatine, then 5% over the course of a year, or 5% of 300, or whatever you want to measure, that 5% is a lot.
Yeah.
Right. You know, D1 scholarships are measured by tenths of a second, right? Or you can do any measuring stick you want. So yeah, that I would challenge. Creatine is very assisted in recovery as well. So when we load it in the beginning, or not load it, when we take it in the beginning of our training, we have those stores, we have that supplemental to pull from, right? Body's pulling from that. Muscle cells are pulling that in. When we potentially put it in later or after training, we're still volumizing the cell with water. We're creating additional ATP through movement. We're doing a lot of beneficial things for recovery too. So people, I think, creatine, bigger, faster, stronger, but they don't think of the recovery component as well. And it is a recovery supplement. But also I get the question of, well, I don't want to take creatine because I don't look like a man.
Okay.
Fair. I don't want you to look like a man either if you don't want to. But you're not going to wake up one day and have too much muscle and look like a man.
Yeah.
Also, right? We've all been in that, I don't want to be too big. Agreed. That's a personal choice, but you're not going to all of a sudden wake up one day and be too big or too much muscle. So think about what you're saying. This is not creatine is not hormonal. It's not foreign to the body. It's not androgenic in that regard. So we're not going to be caught off guard by the changing of our physical structure. Creatine.
That's I guess I'll use the word fun, interesting conversation sometimes to have with people when this concept gets brought up of, I don't want to lift weights a certain way because I'm afraid of getting too big. And the way I usually explain it to people is nobody accidentally walked into the gym and then all of a sudden got huge. That is not the way that it works. And without, your diet and your lifestyle pairing with your training, you're not going to put on more muscle than you want to. In fact, it's going to be very hard for you to even put on the amount that you want to put on. Without really working at it.
Correct.
It's, it's not the same idea as somebody's not paying attention to their diet and they're just eating the standard American way. And then over the course of several years, they gained a bunch of weight,
Yeah.
unhealthy weight.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen the other way around.
No, and I don't want to make it a gender thing, but I hear it specifically a lot of times from women.
Oh, for sure.
I don't want to be this. I don't want to look this way, and it's like you're not.
Yeah.
Creatine has such a ton of other benefits to further just muscle gaining, I guess, is cognitive function, retention of water. Like, I don't want to get bloated. Like maybe when I was in high school, it's like you get that puffiness, and that depends on how much you're taking and what type of creatine you're taking. But its intention, it's a monohydrate, it's a single hydrate, it's looking for water. Like you want the water in the cell because that's where all the good stuff happens with ATP. So to say that I'm retaining water, that might be a little bit, check your diet, check your sodium, check your other things, but we want water in the cell, and that's helping creatine do its thing. Yeah. So that takes me to like, even for stage present athletes, meaning people driven by vanity, whether it's bodybuilding or men's physique or women's bodybuilding, whatever, creatine is still a supplement for them. Totally. For the strength gain and the muscle gain. Now we might wean that off 3, 4, 7 days prior to stepping on stage in that water consumption atmosphere. Yeah. But all the way up to that, take creatine. Creatine for endurance athletes is huge. Like creatine is, endurance athletes are very susceptible to muscle wasting or non-muscle sparing, right? Caloric expenditure is super high, caloric intake is moderate. It's hard to get those in line. So that creatine is going to assist with maintaining and keeping that muscle mass on for those endurance type athletes as well. Let's
maybe talk on that topic just a little bit more, because I think over the course of the history of a year and a half that we've been doing this podcast, that's probably more the angle that it's been when we talk about running and cycling and triathlons and ultra marathons and whatnot. There's been a little bit more of an endurance theme. Yeah. Have you ever had conversations with people who are endurance athletes who are not taking creatine, where you've had to like help them overcome some hurdles and obstacles and understanding why they should maybe consider taking it?
Yeah, Don, my running coach and ultra marathon world record holder.
He's very
fast, and he's a vegan, right? So he doesn't consume red meat, so he's not getting creatine in his daily lifestyle. I got him to start supplementing with creatine, and he actually notices that. I use him as a very high level example. Eric Hinman, you've had him on your podcast, got him using consistently creatine, and this is why noticeable. I put him in the hybrid athlete category.
For sure. Right? Yeah. Very strong and very endurance.
Yep. Yeah. So yes, we've had the conversations with high level athletes where they're just grinding and genetically hardworking and gifted, and we've tacked on creatine and they see benefit. Yeah. All the way to people like me, or the Highlands Ranch runner that just wants to do fives and tens and do 30-minute times for a 5, and that's great. Yep. And creatine can help that. Yeah. Body breakdown and maintaining what you're working hard for.
Yeah, and like you just said, body breakdown, that's kind of the angle that I think is very important to touch on, because I know there's some of those people who are kind enough to tune into this, that Highlands Ranch runner that wants to just run 5Ks, 10Ks, maybe a half marathon. And the types of those people that we see in our office are the ones that are dealing with nagging, chronic, recurrent, oftentimes soft tissue injuries, tendons, muscles. And based on the muscle gaining benefits or maintenance benefits and the recovery process, this could be very potentially beneficial.
Yeah, I don't want to I think this industry hangs its hat on saying, yep, fish oil is going to cure all your ailments, or whatever, right? Take this magic pill, you're going to fix everything. I'm not, and neither are you, saying creatine fixes everything. But when we start talking about core strength, posture, running posture, which ties into glute and ham tie-in, which is causing knee pain and all of these things, more muscle mass or a stronger muscle, not even making it bigger, but more dense, is going to help with those posture and joint tie-ins, correct? I mean, absolutely. It's going to assist with making those ailments be less invasive.
Yep. So a stronger, more stronger and or like muscle that has a higher capacity for load is going to be more tolerant to the demands that the training's putting on it, less likely to break down. Absolutely.
Awesome.
And one of the things, with endurance athletes, a lot of times that sometimes people get concerned about is this interplay of the same conversation we just had about not wanting to get too bulky because, like, say, for example, someone who's doing a long bike race, added weight, may slow you down. But if that weight is proportional and muscular in nature, you're also going to be able to propel your skeleton farther and faster too. So what we find is people who are strong and lean still are usually able to do very well in those types of events. It's not just about the weight on the scale, but more like, are you proportionally strong for your sport or activity?
Yeah, I would say, and in a conjunction with that, more muscle, like a pound is a pound is a pound. Pound of fat, pound of muscle. But a pound of muscle burns, yields, needs way more calories than that pound of fat.
Absolutely.
To survive, we'll say, right?
It's expensive.
Yes.
We call it.
Yeah. So I can ingest, so more muscle mass I have, I can eat more freely.
Sure.
Right. So I don't have to eat boiled chicken and brown rice every day to stay lean. If I have more muscle mass on my frame, I can eat more freely. And that in and of itself is, I think, that's pretty cool. I don't know. It's cool how the body works. Like
I agree with you totally. And I think this is actually one of the things I love about living in Colorado is, generally speaking, I think I'm in pretty good shape, but I feel very average here in Colorado compared to all the amazing athletes and people that are like constantly training out here. Compared to where I'm from in the Midwest, like I go home and I feel like I'm in a much higher percentile in terms of athleticism. But in my family, I'm probably the person that maintains the most muscle mass on my frame.
Sure.
And when we have family gatherings and stuff, I'm the one who, generally speaking, I eat pretty well, but I'm not afraid to have a piece of cake or a bowl of ice cream or whatever. And I think a lot of people in my family will often be surprised or shocked, like, how are you not gaining weight? And I'm like, I don't know, because I lift a lot. Like I need a lot of calories. So every once in a while I can splurge and I'll be okay.
Yeah, it's a nice place to be. And I think circling back to creatine, it can only support that. Not that that's the goal, to be able to eat freely. But it's also creating a lifestyle, right? I can't, and I don't expect clients to eat boiled chicken and brown rice sustainably for the rest of their life. And if that's what's required, then we need to rethink something else, right? Not to say, again, creatine solves all problems, but that's a topic of conversation now. Creatine will assist in opening up the window to dietary restriction.
Sure. Yeah, I like that, because like you said a little bit ago, neither one of us are going to sit here and say this one supplement or this one pill or powder or whatever is going to lead to X results. There's a lot of factors that go into this, but the way I look at it, if there's anything that you can do that's going to help move the needle in your favor towards whatever those goals were that you asked a client or potential customer walking in the door, why wouldn't we want to potentially do that? Why wouldn't we want to do that if it's going to make it more likely to achieve the desired outcome that you're looking for? So I love it.
Yeah, and creatine should be pretty inexpensive. It should not be this astronomical purchase on a monthly basis. To your point, what you were saying, pills, powder, gum, whatever. If at all possible, I would recommend powders because they go into solution and then they're easily absorbed.
Sure.
Pills are just harder to break down. If your goal is to any pill, creatine pill, vitamin, fish oil, whatever pill. But if you're looking just for creating a habit, that would be first. So if I can take 3 pills and get 3 grams of creatine, and I know I'm going to do that because it's next to my toothbrush every morning, adopt that.
Yeah,
consistency. Pill, if I'm picking anything, powder would be the best source. And then there's now Create's a company that I've brought in.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, they created a I will go on record. I used to not condone chewables or gummies because they weren't soluble. They were adding a lot of extra crap to them. They weren't good, right? Create's created a very clean, compliant 1 gram of creatine per gummy solution that is it fits into a traveling atmosphere and it fits into a habit forming atmosphere. It's good.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll have to try those because, like you just said, very easy to
Mhm.
have in your gym bag or in your suitcase or whatever. You're not packing a Ziploc bag of powder. No, I love that idea of a chewable, as long as you're not getting a bunch of crap with it.
Right.
So, I think we've done a pretty good job of talking about like what creatine is,
Mhm.
that we naturally produce creatine in our body, and we're not taking something that's going to stop our natural production of it.
Yeah.
And kind of why some people might be more at need to supplement it than others based on their diet, like if you're not eating red meat, for example. But what about some of the other supplements that are out there in your store? Like if someone comes in, and I almost want to like limit this to 5. I know there's more supplements than you can take, but like if someone comes in, maybe creatine's one of them. What are some of the other like most popular, most common recommended supplements that you guys find for, and I guess we'll use the same kind of example, either the endurance athlete or like the weightlifting athlete.
Yep. So
the stuff that's, research is good on it. People's anecdotal response is positive on it, like compared to, things that maybe aren't quite worth their weight in the money. So
sure. I'll give you my top 5 and then I'll give you my side asterisk one.
Yeah,
top 5. So a clean protein.
Mhm.
I think protein is usually an area that people feel one of the areas that people feel comfortable, right? But an area that people feel can get duped in getting something that they don't need or not cost effective or not very clean. So, but a good protein.
And you don't have to do this, but if you would like to, feel free to throw out some brands that you think fit that bill in case people are curious about what should I look for.
Yeah.
If you don't want to, that's fine too.
Yeah, I think protein is my core. A gender specific or a very sport specific, well-rounded multivitamin not to get everything that we need, but to get what we're not getting. I know that's kind of an arbitrary statement, but like I don't need a multi to get me enough C because I eat and consume C, but I don't get enough K.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So like it's to fill in the gaps of a pretty decent diet. Fish oil, there's been pros and cons and arguments and etc. But fish oil is one that we don't as a populace get enough quality omegas, 3, 6s, and 9s in our daily habit of eating based on American foods. And D. We get D, we live in Colorado, maybe not most recent, but there's a lot of sunshine, but we're looking at different forms of D and different ways of entry. A good 5,000 IU D on a daily basis. That should be 1 small pill a day. Again, I will state I'm not a doctor. This is not based on prescription. This is based on research, education, and 15 years in the industry.
Yeah.
On an omega, you're looking for EPA and DHA to make your omega good. So you can buy fish oil at Costco. You can buy fish oil from $100 a bottle for 30 days on some website, right? But EPA and DHA is what we're looking for in making fish oil beneficial. We're also looking for cold press, not just warm press. So the way it's extracted. So like Costco fish oil, in my research and reading, take the fish, squeeze it. I've got oil, I capsulate it, bad and good oils. I don't want that personally. Sure. But they can deem it as fish oil because it's not a lie. Cold pressed is manufacturing, pulling the good fats, EPA, DHA, excreting the bad ones, encapsulating that. That's what I want. Got it. Shouldn't be that much more expensive, to be quite honest with you. Getting into, we kind of touched on the vitamin. Vitamin needs to be well-rounded, easily absorbed. Shouldn't give you GI distress. Shouldn't be 10 pills a day. Should be very simple and should be habit forming in the sense of not addictive, but you can adhere to it. Yeah. And then protein. Assuming that you can consume dairy via whey and or some or a little bit of lactose. Max Pro, Max Muscle makes a very popular one called Max Pro, 140 calories, 30 grams of protein. When we look at protein, we want to compare labels or look at labels in the sense of a scoop is 31.5 grams of powder yields me 30 grams of protein. There's 1.5 difference in powder to what I'm buying of protein. Yeah. So I can do that math and I can see what it is. Yeah. That's sweetener, that's chocolate, that's whatever. When I start getting into like, okay, 40 grams of powder yields me 25 grams of protein, what's that discrepancy and why? That's when that should start raising a red flag. especially if there's, 1 gram of sugar, 0 carb or 1 carb, and 1 net unit of fat. Well, that math doesn't make sense to me, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of got to dig into that and understand where it is and where it's coming from. Whey isn't the end all be all. That's not what I'm saying. But that is that's the easiest to attach to in the terms of protein 90% of the time.
Sure.
We can pull lactose from whey if there's a lactose deficiency, and we call it isolate or hydrolyzed whey. It's whey, but it has 0 lactose. So if you're lactose intolerant or lactose deficient, we can still consume whey. And the reason why I am an advocate in the industry is an advocate of whey is because it's got a complete amino acid profile.
Sure.
We take protein in a supplemental aspect for soft tissue repair and recovery, i.e. muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Or for a snack or meal replacement. The 3 most abundant amino acids for skeletal muscle function, leucine, isoleucine, and valine, come from animals, right, whether it's chicken, fish, or milk. Plants don't have those. So I want an animal-based protein. The easiest one to get in our industry is milk. Yeah. That's why we go there. There's other forms. There's beef, there's salmon, there's other kinds of animal-based protein. Great, we have them, we can talk about them, and that's why we advocate them. Yeah. If based on dietary restriction or desire, you want vegan or plant, totally fine, have them. We just want to make sure we're either adding those 3 amino acids or they're having them added for you. Yeah. And because that's why we're taking protein.
Yep. I love that explanation. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Because I'm forgetting off the top of my mind right now. I don't believe it's been released yet as of the recording of this podcast, but I had another provider in here. We were talking all about protein. Yep. for an hour or so, and that was a conversation we got into because both of us work with a fair amount of clients that prefer and choose to eat plant-based. We were having that exact conversation that yep, you can't, in a lot of plant-based scenarios, yep, get the full amino acid profile unless you're adding them in. Mm-hmm. And then I love the conversation that you just opened up about, like, what is the weight of the powder compared to in grams compared to the grams of the mm-hmm, actual protein that's in there, and what is making up of the additional weight, mm-hmm, how much like other stuff is in there. And then on the flip side, in the plant-based side of things, in terms of calories, mm-hmm, typically you're going to be consuming a lot more calories, mm-hmm, to get the amount of protein you're looking for, yep, in a plant-based compared to an animal-based. But I do have some clients who actually endurance athletes who were eating totally plant-based, mm-hmm, just because they were having some GI issues and stuff. And then switched away, we're not tolerating it well, but then switched to like a beef protein, yep, that's not whey, and they're absolutely loving it. Yeah. So I think what's important is, find what works for you. Yeah. People have different preferences and needs and cultural things that they follow. Yeah. Totally fine. We're not telling you to eat a certain way. Mm-hmm. We're just trying to, explain to you the difference depending which avenue you're going to go down, right, and how to make that potentially work for you.
Yeah, I would look at why am I willing to spend the money for this? So why am I taking it? Mm-hmm. And if I'm taking it for recovery of activity, then I need those amino acids. Yeah. If I'm taking it just for calories, then fine. Then find one that meets your caloric profile, right? If I'm taking this for a snack protein and has nothing to do, protein is not workout specific. Mm-hmm. I can take protein if I'm sedentary and don't do anything.
100%.
And it's beneficial, right? So going back, just know why you're willing to commit to protein and what you want it to look like before you just go to Walmart and buy something off the shelf because it says protein.
Sure. Yeah, I like that. On anything that you're buying, looking at the label is probably a good idea. Yeah. Unless in fact it doesn't have a label, and then that's great too. Yeah. Okay, so what else? You said you talked about protein, you talked about the multi fish oil, and then you said 5,000 IUs vitamin D. Yep. And then we already talked a bunch about creatine. Yep. And then you said that and with the vitamin D, do you normally encourage people to get a liquid form or a capsule form or one with K2, D3? What do you guys typically recommend?
I like singles. Mm-hmm. I like to know I'm just getting 5,000 IUs of D, and if I need K or I need these other things, there's some assistance in absorption by pairing these together. Yeah. That's where the multi comes in for me. Sure. And most people, if I'm sitting looking at a K unit, a D unit, an A, and all of it, I'm not gonna commit to have it six pills in the morning,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to consolidate that as much as possible in getting it in the gram dosing that I want, I guess is my answer to.
Yeah.
5,000 is the recommended dose by clinical studies. Form, sure. Liquid, more soluble, just like creatine in solution, more soluble. I'm not gonna adopt that at the firehouse and at home and carry this vial around. I'm just not.
Yeah.
Throwing a pill in my bag, I am. So, and there's a difference with type of pills, fish oil gel caps versus pressed pills versus sleeve pills. Like they all kind of break down differently. There was a study done, I think, in the 90s with Centrum.
Okay.
Those multi
Tablets.
those tablets. Super popular, right? Centrum Silver, Centrum Silver. And they did a study about with like porta potties and toilets and septics, and they were excreting like 90% of those out in whole format, meaning they're never broken down.
Yeah.
So the body breaks down the capsule or the pill or the consumable ingestible differently. Just know that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, and then you mentioned when I asked you to keep it to 5 that you had a couple other asterisk ones that might be popularly recommended.
The big ones, and then we delve into sports performance. Sports performance, creatine would be in the top. Phosphatidic acid is a huge one. We could spend another 2 hours talking about it. PA7 or phosphatidic acid. Dr. Jacob Wilson at the University of Tampa did his research on trained college athletes, both men and women. Actually, just recently in the last couple of years, got his research published medically. Something to look at. We won't delve into it too hard, but if you have questions, reach out or whatever, look it up yourself. Dr. Jacob Wilson, University of Tampa, phosphatidic acid, or the short of that is PA7. Non-hormonal, NCA compliant, informed choice approved, and NSF approved, certain brands, certain companies. Amazing working with the mTOR pathway that we all have, like the Krebs cycle, but the mTOR pathway utilizing amino acids for skeletal muscle function. That's what it's doing. And that phosphatidic acid, we've heard of HMB, some of us on this probably, is working kind of like HMB behind the scenes. The phosphatidic acid is downstream of HMB to shuttle those amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, valine, all of those to the muscles, soft tissue, in drastic efficiency to repair it and build it stronger. So cross-sectional strength in these collegiate athletes went up like 108% over an 8-week period. It was a placebo, 0, 3 grams and 1.5 grams, 45 minutes pre-training, and 1.5 and 3 didn't have a glaring difference, but the 1.5 and 3 to 0 did. And the difference was like over 100% of cross-sectional strength.
Wow.
In an 8-week period in collegiate athletes, like trained humans, not just taking somebody off the street. So that was huge. So something either we can talk about later or somebody can research, but that's in like that's in my top. And then I think I had this one was my asterisk, BCAAs.
Okay.
People feel comfortable taking BCAAs because they taste good, they don't have calories, and somebody told them to. Because we tag them with recovery. I want to recover, so I need to take BCAAs. If you're getting in enough protein or BCAAs in your diet through whole food or protein or chicken, fish, steak, you probably don't need them. Unless you're using that, I think the term I'm overtraining. I think that's BS. You know better than I. Like, it is very hard to overtrain. If you're eating properly and you're training efficiently, you and me can't really overtrain.
It's an interesting conversation because we deal with a lot of people that are dealing with injuries, aches and pains. What I usually tell people is training, sleeping, eating, recovery, like it's a continuum, right? You're probably not overtraining, you're probably under recovering.
Correct.
And not fueling yourself for the training you're trying to do.
Correct.
And that's leading to the breakdown of whatever we're talking about. Instead of just us talking about restricting your training, let's look at these other areas and see if there's room for improvement, because you might be able to keep training exactly how you are if we prepare your body for it.
Or whatever.
Eat more, sleep more, whatever. So I like where your head's at with this, because it's not just one thing ever.
No.
And I think usually those other things are playing a significant role when someone's quote unquote overtraining.
Training's easy.
Yeah.
Most people listening, most people in Colorado, most people in the nation like to be in movement, right? Once I get into it, I like to run, bike, swim, I like to lift weights. It makes me feel good for 60 minutes. It's my time.
Yeah.
That's not the hard part. The hard part is sleeping, not consuming alcohol or alcohol at moderation, eating, food prep, management, lifestyle, kids, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. That's the hard part.
Totally.
So I go back to the supplement side, BCAAs, EAs, whatever. I think are a little bit of a farce. I sell them. I sell quality ones. I like them. I'll piece them in for a hydration component. I'm tired of drinking clear liquid of water every day. I'll flavor it with this as opposed to a soda or a Gatorade or whatever.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be going on a long ruck, if I'm going to be going on 2 or more hours of activity, high level activity, yep, I'll splash them in my water and I'll consume them.
Yeah.
Makes me drink more water. And what are we fighting? What are we fighting with ingesting BCAAs, EAs, either pre-training or intra-training? We're fighting going catabolic, right? We're fighting burning muscle for fuel, right? So those BCAAs trick my body, for lack of a better term, to let the muscle stay on and burn these BCAAs. So it's in essence fuel. So if they're used properly and in the right timing, use them, buy them, adapt to them.
Yeah.
But I think the BCA term is thrown around frequently, and people buy them in hopes to feel like they're 25 again, and that's not what BCAs do.
Yeah, I sort of love that you brought that up, because I have heard very similar things, and that's not a supplement that I take. It's one that I used to take, and I don't anymore. I can't say I noticed a difference, but one thing that I've definitely done over the past, I guess we'll call it 5 years, is paid significantly more attention to the amount of calories and protein that I'm eating, where I probably wasn't getting enough before. So yeah, and I can't say I've noticed much of a difference, and it makes sense if what it's actually doing for our body, we're sort of getting through that proper nutrition.
We look at it maybe when your wife was training, or people doing a lot of fasted performance-based training, prepping for a show, prepping for a race. I'm getting up at 4 a.m., dude. I can't eat something, but I need to go do 45 minutes of X. Okay. Well, I'm going to try to get you to eat something. If you just won't, then BCAAs and or BCAAs coupled with creatine pre-training would be your solution.
Yeah.
You're gonna, because you're going into it fasted, right? Your last intake was dinner, maybe 8 p.m. ish at latest. You had no calories over the course of the last 10, 12 hours. Now you're going to go do activity. Your body is going to potentially want, unless you're flirting with ketosis, is going to want to burn muscle mass. We worked hard to get it. So that's where I would plug in some creatine and BCAAs. Yeah,
I like that idea. Speaking of training, I want to ask you, so you mentioned, in what month is that ultra in?
June.
So basically a year from now, 11 months from now. So maybe you haven't necessarily started training a ton for that yet, but
training my brain, dude, my head.
What does your training look like right now as like the style of athlete that you are now as a fireman? Like, what do you do for training?
I do short burst intervals, like a CrossFit type, whether it be V23 or on my own or through some of Eric's programming or Bo or whatever. So explosive movements. I still focus on, I want to maintain or build my squat bench, like these big areas. So I'll pick 1 to 2 movements to load heavy. Tax the nervous system, longer rest periods. And then I'll delve into some high repetition, high volume, higher heart rate maintenance kind of stuff to maintain that. Because as a fireman, you go from 0 to 100 very quickly. And I want to be able to not have a heart attack. And everything that goes along with that. It helps me keep fat at bay. It allows me to eat a little bit more freely and or more. And then now I'm focusing in on working with Don, and over the course of the next months, tacking in distance running.
Yeah, for sure.
Just getting the joints in the body comfortable, or as comfortable as can be, running over a period of time under load. Not for a 6-minute mile, but for, running for an hour with non-discomfort, and then just keep multiplying that.
And I think that's a big key. And maybe I've mentioned this on the show before, but this isn't exactly what we're talking about. But being in shape, strong, moving well, right? Like having good movement and range of motion accessible to you and strong in those ranges makes it significantly more likely that you are going to be able to tolerate the demands of running and run comfortably. Because running is probably one of the sports or activities, well, it is one of the sports or activities that has an extremely high rate of injury. A lot of people don't like to do it because they hurt when they do it. Like it's usually less the cardiovascular side of things, unless you're like brand new to Colorado and you're getting used to the elevation. But I know a lot of people that don't like to run because they don't feel good when they do it. But a lot of these people are using running as a means to get themselves in shape, as opposed to through sleep, diet, and other forms of exercise, getting themselves in shape in order to run. And that angle goes way better for almost everybody, because if you can tolerate running to where you're not injured or your knees aren't hurting and whatnot, then you can actually start to enjoy it a little bit. And
it's repeatable. Right? If it hurts, you're not going to keep doing it.
Nope.
And that's where people fall off from an athletic perspective. Like people stop doing something because it hurts over a period of time. So I'm just not going to keep doing that. Or my body's not going to allow me to do it. So that in and of itself, to your point, is more impactful, meaning I could out train a poor diet when I was younger. I can't out train a poor diet now. So the diet actually plays an equal to my results, as opposed to I could eat whatever I wanted when I was younger and just train my butt off and get decent results. Right. So it's gonna change. And like I said, I think it can be done. Well, I know it can be done, right? Physically, it can be done. You have 11 months to do something, you can prep for it. It's the mental, it's the nighttime, it's the alone, it's the thoughts, it's the journey of it that is the entice. So.
No, I wish you nothing but success with that training cycle and the events next June. And then I want to have you, before we start the process of wrapping this up here, just to make sure we cover like your business, inform me and the people that are listening to us. What else do you guys do at Max Muscle? I know you don't just sell supplements. So like, what else do you guys do there, all encompassing in your business?
Supplementally, we pick and choose what we bring in. So it's not the Walmart of supplements. It's thought out things that are on the shelf. Example, you're not going to get 30 different proteins. You're going to get ones that fit the bill for each individual aspect, and you can choose from them. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit more boutique in the supplement side of things. Additionally, we can and will write training programs based on the person's desire and what they want to do, or we refer those out. A big one is the consultation piece of supplementation, the Q&A, and the nutrition components. We write new customized nutrition plans. We have in-bodies in store that we utilize. We have software. And we have certifications and education to support that. So it's an accountability coach, whether it be Zoom or in person, to assist with supplementation and nutrition if you choose to go down that path. The consultation is free. So whether you walk in off the street and just say, hey, let's talk, or you want to schedule that's an option on different platforms, websites, etc. But we really try to take it to everybody's an athlete mentality, because you don't have to wear a jersey to be an athlete. You want to be in motion, so you're doing athletic things. And we really try to take the Max Muscle name out of it and look at sports nutrition, which if you're in the store buying anything, it's still in the sports nutrition category. So it's a boutique, cater to environment that hopefully is a little less bro science and invasive in that regard, and educational and informative.
Love that. And I think, that's the style of facility that I would prefer, as opposed to just, hey, here's 100 different things to choose from. You decide what you want, like some guidance, some direction, some education that comes with it, and really an understanding of why are you doing this and what are we going to be able to help you fit your goals and your needs. And then the even though we're going to put all these things in the show notes, I still want to have you mention them anyway. So you mentioned like the website and different ways that people can get in touch with you guys. What would those be? Where can people find you guys?
My Instagram is Bryan_cash. I have a link there. You can schedule with me. You can go on mm1.shop, is www.mm1.shop. And on that homepage, you can schedule a consultation with me. You can find my calendar. Call the store. We're on Google. Don't need to tell you the number. It'll be in the notes, but call the store. You can schedule, stop in and just have Q&A. The store's in Lone Tree, the physical store's in Lone Tree. The website is what I said, that mm1.shop. And yeah.
Awesome. No, I think this was great. And hopefully you guys that tuned in to listen to us here on The Code feel like you got a lot of value out of this. And honestly, maybe you feel like you got some more questions. And if you have those, I would love for you to, my email's in the show notes, Bryan's contact information will be in there. Please make sure you reach out to one of us if you do have questions so we can help you figure out some answers. And if we don't know the answer, we'll try and help you find somebody that does, point you in the right direction. Again, Bryan, thank you so much for joining me. And for all you guys that tune in to listen on The Code, if you've not done so already, it would be so appreciated if you would be willing to hop on there and leave a review, whatever podcast platform you use. We do have a goal of getting to 200 5-star reviews on this podcast. And you guys are a big reason why we're able to keep the show going. So thank you so much. And again, I'm Dr. Andrew Fix. We'll catch you on the next episode of The Code.